Dust hangs in the air. The sound of metal twisting and the agonizing scream of a siren fill the chaotic void of the rubble. The sky, covered by dark clouds, cannot block the light of the searchlights that cut through the darkness. Amidst the destruction of a recently destroyed building, a rescue team fights against time. Their steps are quick but careful, as if each movement could be their last. The mission seems simple: save a dog trapped in the rubble. But something is wrong. The dog is there, trapped between the rocks, visibly terrified, but he is not alone. The team leader, breathing heavily and focused, reaches the critical point. The smell of smoke mixes with the cold night air, and he can hear the sound of a heartbeat, loud and fast. "Come on, hurry," he orders. His voice, despite the tension, carries an urgency that reverberates through the group. With each piece of rubble removed, what seemed like a rescue mission turns into something much bigger. Something more sinister. The dog is trapped, but there's something more there. He's not just struggling to escape danger, he's trying to get away from something. And then, what the heroes discover, when they clear away the last of the rubble, is something no one expected. It's not just a dog. It's the thing he was trying to protect. In the place where the animal was, they find something strange. A box, well hidden, sealed in an unusual way, with markings that shouldn't be there. Something is buried there, something that doesn't make sense. But before they can investigate further, a deafening noise shatters the air. The rubble begins to shake again. Something is approaching. "Who's there?" the leader shouts, his voice thick with desperation. He tries to see past the smoke, but all he can make out is a vague silhouette, moving quickly through the shadows. They saved the dog, but what they just discovered will change everything. Because where there is mystery, there is danger. And right now, the biggest risk is what they don't know yet. But the truth is waiting to be discovered. The team leader, Marcos, is a man marked by experience. In his early 40s, he has already lived more than most people could imagine. His deep, heavy eyes reveal the silent pain he carries. In his mind, the images of a failed rescue, months ago, still haunt his nights. The face of his best friend, Lucas, lost under rubble, screaming for help until he could no longer. Since that day, Marcos has never been the same. Yet his everyday life tries to feel normal. He has a routine he follows, a simple house, and the sounds of a quiet neighborhood where he feels, for a brief moment, at peace. When he's not risking his life on rescue missions, he tries to piece together the broken pieces of his life, sipping coffee in silence in the morning, sitting alone on the couch, staring into space. Nothing of great importance happens. So far. Marcos isn't one to believe in coincidences, but he also knows that after a tragedy, there's a constant weight on his actions. Every time he does something, he asks himself, will this be the last time I have the chance to make amends? Today, as he sets out on yet another rescue mission, he feels a strange sense of unease. Perhaps it is the memory of what he has lost. Or perhaps it is simply the fact that he has to put himself back in a situation where someone's life, or something's, depends on him. The call comes at 2 a.m., shattering the calm of his night. There's not much to wonder about. A building has collapsed, and a dog is trapped in the rubble. The mission seems simple, almost routine. But little does he know that this will be the mission that takes him back to the nightmares he's been trying so hard to avoid. In the van, as he drives in silence, he observes the other members of the team. Lucas, the young intern, always too optimistic for his own good, and Anna, the doctor, who constantly tries to keep the team's morale up, even when she herself is on the verge of exhaustion. They have their own stories, their own scars, but in that moment, they all have a common purpose: to save a defenseless being. The building is in ruins. When they arrive at the scene is worse than they expected. There is not only rubble, but complete destruction. The environment is filled with smoke and the distant sound of sirens and screams of despair. But among the rubble, a small being tries to survive, desperately. It is the dog. The team leader, with a grim expression, looks at the scene. He knows that time is against them. As he begins to prepare the equipment for the rescue, he can't help but think about what he was told in the last few hours of training. Things are not always what they seem. Pay attention to the details. Danger can come from where you least expect it. He takes a deep breath and tries to shake off the feeling that something is about to change. Within minutes, the simple mission begins to turn into something much bigger. As the team approaches the rubble, the tension is palpable. Marcos watches the other team members, adrenaline already starting to take over. Lucas, the youngest, is visibly anxious. He already has his gloves and goggles on, ready to act, but his eyes do not hide his nervousness. Anna, on the other hand, maintains a calm expression, trying to give the group a sense of security. But Marcos knows that, inside, she is also worried. "Let's be quick," Marcos says, his voice firm but tinged with doubt. He surveys the place and notices something strange. Despite all the signs of destruction, the place where the dog is trapped seems to be intact. It's unusual. The building collapsed in a disorderly fashion, but there, amidst the rubble, everything around the small area where the animal is trapped seems almost calculated, as if someone had chosen this exact spot. But this is no time for doubts. Marcos begins to coordinate the movements, instructing Lucas to remove the smaller stones while Anna prepares the equipment to check if the animal is injured. The dog, visibly scared, growled softly, but was unable to move. With each passing second, Marcos feels the weight of time. But something prevents him from relaxing, as if the situation itself were more tense than it should be. As Lucas begins to pull the stones, the sound of metal breaking and the creaking of the structure that is still standing firm make everyone uneasy. What once seemed like a simple operation now becomes a game of life or death. Suddenly, a large stone gives way and a piece of the structure collapses next to it, almost hitting Lucas. The young man jumps to the side, his heart racing. "Watch out!" Anna shouts, her voice shaking. Marcos feels the weight of the moment, not only because of the imminent threat of more collapses, but because of the growing feeling that something is not right. He looks at the spot where they are working, and everything seems out of place. The dog, now visibly more agitated, moves strangely, as if trying to indicate something. "Faster!" Marcos shouts, moving to help Lucas. He knows every second counts. With tension in the air, they finally remove the last rock that imprisoned the dog. When the animal, finally free, is pulled out, everyone breathes a sigh of relief, but the feeling of relief is short-lived. What they find when they move the rubble leaves them paralyzed. Beneath the rubble, where the cub was trapped, there is not just dirt and debris. There are marks on the ground. Marks that should not be there. Dried lines of blood, stains from something, or someone who was dragged there. The scene looks staged, as if someone had placed the cub there. And what is most disturbing is that the blood marks lead nowhere. There is no body, no more traces. The only thing left is the blood, and the feeling that something or someone, at some point, was there but is now gone. "That doesn't make sense," Anna mutters, without taking her eyes off the ground, as the dog, now calmer, approaches them, as if trying to show them something. The silence that follows is heavy. Marcos watches the scene, trying to process what he saw. "I think we found more than we expected." His voice sounds more like a thought than a statement, but when he looks at his colleagues, he realizes that they are all silent, capturing the same sense of discomfort. "Who would do something like that?" Lucas asks, his face pale. He scans the area around them, trying to figure out what's wrong. "This is no coincidence," Marcos says firmly. He senses, deep down, that what they were facing was not just a rescue mission. There was something more there. Something bigger and darker, waiting to be discovered. As Marcos tries to organize his thoughts, a disconcerting feeling settles in his chest. He looks around, with the feeling that they are no longer alone. But there is no time to investigate further. Something is watching them. And when the dog suddenly starts barking desperately, pointing to the darkness between the rubble, everyone realizes that the questions that have arisen will not be easy to answer. "We have to get out of here," Marcos says urgently, but inside him a voice insists, "There is still more here. More than you can imagine." And so, rescuing the dog turns into a race for survival, for them and for what is still hidden in that place. The dog continues to bark, its voice echoing at a frantic pace, as if it is trying to warn them. Everyone on the team feels the tension rising, but time is against them. Marcos looks at the others, his eyes fixed on the animal, and in his mind, fear begins to grow. Something is wrong. He feels it in every fiber of his being. The team has just narrowly escaped a cave-in, and now, with the discovery of the bloodstains, what seemed like a simple mission turns into a labyrinth of mysteries and hidden dangers. "Let's move away," Marcos says, his voice harder than before. He starts to move, but his gaze can't leave the dog, who now seems more agitated than ever. The animal is growling, but the direction it's looking doesn't seem to have an explanation. It turns abruptly and runs towards the rubble, stopping in front of a partially destroyed wall. "Marcos, can you hear that?" Anna asks, her voice low and strained. Marcos approaches cautiously, his footsteps heavy on the broken ground. The tension is palpable, the sound of his own footsteps echoing through the devastated area. He tries to hear what she's hearing. A distant sound, a sort of muffled moan. Not a moan of pain, but something different. Something human. He takes a step toward the sound. "Stay alert," he orders, and everyone moves more cautiously. They know they can't be caught off guard, but the sense of imminent danger grows. The dog, who had been frantic until that moment, suddenly calms down. He sits, his eyes fixed on the broken wall ahead. It's as if he's waiting for someone to notice what's there. With his heart racing, Marcos touches the partially destroyed concrete wall. A chunk of concrete moves, revealing an opening small enough for a body to squeeze through. As he begins to examine it more closely, a new discovery hits him like an electric shock. On the wall, partially hidden beneath layers of rubble, are signs of something that was intentionally hidden there. These are not simple marks of destruction. They are symbols, meticulously engraved. These symbols, they're not random, Marcos says, his voice cracking as he tries to make sense of what's in front of him. He kneels, his eyes scanning the details with precision. They're ancient, as if they belong to a culture or ritual he's never seen before. And from the look of alarm on Anna's face, he knows she feels the gravity of the discovery, too. Lucas, visibly frightened, asks, "What are these symbols? What do they mean?" Before Marcos can respond, a vibration runs through the floor, followed by the sound of something moving in the shadows, but no one dares to go any further. They are faced with something they cannot understand. The feeling that there is something bigger, more terrible, about to be revealed, grows with each passing second. "Let's get out of here now," Marcos says, standing up abruptly, his body filled with a nervousness he can't control. He looks at the dog, who now seems calmer than before. This dog wasn't just trapped in the rubble. He's here for a reason. Marcos feels the weight of doubt settle in his mind. What he thought was a simple rescue has turned into something completely different. Something bigger. Something that is beyond his comprehension. But before they can move, a new discovery stops them in their tracks. Among the rubble of the wall, there is something else. It is not human, but it is something. An object, buried under a thick layer of debris. Marcos hesitates, his hand hovering over the item. He carefully removes it, revealing a small device, strange and technological. The device appears to have been left there for a long time, covered in dust and debris. As he picks it up, a faint light flickers on the surface of the object, but it is the sound that comes after that stops them in their tracks. An electronic sound, almost like a recording that is starting to play, but they cannot hear what it says. Anna approaches, her gaze intense and restless. "What is it, Marcos?" Marcos stands still for a moment, feeling the weight of the device in his hands. He knows that the answer to this question is not just hidden in that piece of metal and circuitry. The truth, and all the mystery that has been lingering since the beginning of the mission, is beginning to take shape. But the question that remains unanswered is still the most important of all. Why was this device buried here, in this place? And, even more disturbing, what is he trying to tell us? The air around them seems to grow thicker, the mystery growing relentless. What began as a simple rescue is now a search for the unknown. And the only thing Marcos knows is that he can no longer turn back. The truth, whatever it may be, is now closer than ever. Marcos holds the device tightly, his eyes fixed on the flashing lights that appear on the object. The feeling that they are on the verge of something monumental, something that could explain everything, overwhelms him. The puppy, still beside them, now seems calmer, as if waiting for them to unravel the mystery. The team falls silent for a few moments, as if they all feel the weight of what is about to happen. "I think we can end this here," Marcos says, looking at the others, trying to keep hope alive. He figures that if they can figure out the device, they might finally find an explanation. "I think we've found something important. Something that can get us out of here and show us what's going on." Anna, with a cautious look, approaches Marcos. "But what about the rest? And the bloodstains? And the symbols on the wall? What is all this, Marcos?" Marcos takes a deep breath. "I don't know, Anna. But this could be the key to understanding what's going on. If we can activate this device, maybe we can find out the truth behind all of this." With a slow, meticulous movement, he begins to manipulate the device, trying to turn it on or decipher its purpose. The sound of the blinking light, together with the low hum of the mechanism, seems to create a sense of relief, as if they are about to solve the riddle. They have the feeling that the answer is within their reach. Then, without warning, the device emits a high-pitched beep, and a message begins to be transmitted. But instead of a clear response, the recording coming from the device is fragmented, full of static and distortion. Disjointed words. Unintelligible sounds. Each sentence seems to be a piece of a puzzle that they can't quite put together. "No, this can't be," Marcos mutters, frustration starting to take over him. What seemed like a simple solution becomes a new layer of mystery and uncertainty. The recording provides no answers, only more questions. Anna takes a step back, visibly uncomfortable with what she had just heard. "We don't have time for this anymore. We must leave now before the situation gets even worse." But before they can discuss further, a strong tremor runs through the ground, followed by a series of cracks. The building that had collapsed is about to give way again. The sound of rocks moving is a warning. With each passing second, the ground seems more unstable. A fissure appears near them, and larger chunks of concrete fall, scattering dust and debris everywhere. The team retreats, running towards the exit, but the space is tight, and the risk of getting trapped increases with every step. "Quick, quick!" Marcos shouts, and everyone starts running, but the scene turns into a nightmare. The exit is blocked. The path back they had traced disappears, buried under the pressure of the falling debris. The device that seemed to be the key to the mystery now seems useless. What once seemed like a clear clue is now just another burden, weighing on their shoulders. Fear takes hold of Marcos. They are trapped. Again. But before despair can completely consume them, a light shines through the dust. A small opening appears in the rubble. A path, although narrow, seems to be a way out. Marcos, breathing heavily and with a racing heart, approaches, pulling the others with him. "This is our only chance," he screams, but at the same time, a sense of loss begins to invade his thoughts. He cannot leave behind what he does not yet understand, but he has no choice. They have to get out. They have to survive. And as the team approaches the opening, a sense of false hope hangs in the air. They thought the device would be the solution, that the rescue would bring answers. But the truth. The truth seems further away than ever. As they passed through the opening, reality hit them with devastating force. What they had encountered had not saved them. They were escaping a threat greater than they could have imagined. Marcos looks back one last time, feeling the oppression of the place, but he knows he can't go back. The mission to rescue the dog has become something much bigger, and with each step, they are closer to a truth that could destroy everything they know. "We're leaving now," Marcos says, his voice cracking with tension. "But what we found out, this isn't over yet." And so the false sense of security dissolves, leaving them with the weight of a secret yet to be revealed. The real battle is just beginning. As the team pushes away from the rubble and finds a gap in the ruins, Marcos feels the weight of what has just happened. The air around them is thick with dust, and the sound of destruction still echoes, as if the world itself is trying to swallow everything up. They have barely escaped, and yet the feeling that something much bigger is about to happen doesn't go away. Every step they take towards safety brings more questions, more uncertainty. Marcos feels like he can't just move on. He can't leave things like this. The discovery of the device, the bloodstains, the symbols on the wall, all of that keeps playing in his mind. The dog, the rescue that seemed simple, is now just a part of a puzzle that he needs to understand. Something is hidden there, something that no one else knows. And he, no matter how much he tries to deny it, feels that he is responsible for finding out what it is. "Anna, Lucas," he says, stopping and looking at the two of them, his voice darker now. "I can't leave here without knowing the truth. What else are they trying to hide? What's going on here?" Anna stares at him with a tense expression, as if she is fighting her own demons. She knows that Marcos is moving away from his own safety, toward something much bigger. Something that could be fatal. Lucas, in turn, shakes his head, looking at the leader with fear. "Are you crazy? We don't have any more time. This place is going to collapse at any moment. We can't go on. We need to go back. We need to leave now." But Marcos already knows he can't just walk away. Not with the device still in his hands. He looks back at the gap in the ruins he just passed. They're still in danger, yes, but for him, the biggest risk now is leaving this mystery unsolved. He feels like he's on the brink of something, a revelation that could change everything, and he can't let it slip away. "Not now." "I know what you're thinking," Marcos says, his voice grave. "But it's not about what else might happen here. It's about what's happening now. We can't leave until we find out what's behind this." He looks down at the device in his hands. The light still flickers, the distorted recording reverberating in his mind. He feels the pressure, the growing doubt. He knows he is compromising himself irreversibly, but something in his soul tells him he must move on. Anna sighs, her face tired and lined with worry. "Marcos, I understand the need to find out the truth, but you're putting us all at risk. Whatever's going on here, it's too big for us to solve. Please listen." Marcos interrupts her, not with anger, but with quiet determination. "If we don't do this now, there won't be any later. I'm going to do whatever it takes to figure out what's going on here." Lucas, still in shock, looks from Marcos to Anna, and after a moment of silence, he steps forward. "I'm going with you, Marcos. If you're going to go all the way, then we won't leave you alone in this." Anna watches him for a moment, her eyes heavy with sadness. She feels the weight of the decision. The fear of the unknown torments her, but deep down, she knows she cannot let her friend go alone on such a dangerous mission. She gives a resigned sigh and shakes her head. "I'm in too. But it won't be easy. And with every step we take, the chance of us getting out of here alive decreases." Marcos nods, a flame of mixed hope and fear lighting up in his eyes. They can't go back. Not now. With one last look back at the opening through which they escaped, the team prepares to re-enter the ruins, a new, dark purpose guiding their steps. They are heading into the unknown, knowing that this will be a journey of no return, one that will change all of their lives. They step through the gap and find themselves among the rubble again, but this time, something shifts in the air. The pressure builds, and they know they are not alone. Something is watching them. Something more, beyond what they can understand. The fear is no longer just about what lies ahead, but about what is unfolding beneath their feet. And as Marcos walks forward, the device still in his hands, he feels a wave of dread spread through his body. Each step is a deeper engagement with the mystery, with the truth that is still veiled. The point of no return has been reached. Now, there is no stopping. We're going to find out what happened here, Marcos says, more to himself than to the others. And if we don't get out alive, at least let's understand what's behind all this. And with those words, they continue, more determined than ever, stepping into the darkness, ready to face whatever lies ahead. The tension in the air grows with each step the team takes back into the rubble. The sound of their breathing is muffled by the constant vibration of the ground, as if the ground itself is about to give way. Marcos feels the pressure on his shoulders, but he is determined. The device in his hands seems to weigh him down even more. He knows that although they were one step away from the exit, the truth now lies before them, in the heart of the ruins. "We're getting closer," he mutters, mostly to himself, but the tension is so palpable that even Lucas and Anna exchange nervous glances. The dog that had previously been guiding them is now behaving strangely. He walks away, heading toward a more secluded part of the rubble, his posture more alert than ever. The light on Marcos's device begins to blink more frantically, as if something is activating as they approach a specific area. The environment seems to change as they move forward. The shadows grow thicker, and the sound of dust falling on the stones is interrupted only by their own footsteps. The feeling of being watched has never been so strong. A sense of urgency envelopes them. Something big is about to happen. When they reach a point where the building has been even more completely devastated, a section of the floor gives way, and a hidden, almost imperceptible hatch appears before them. The device in Marcos's hands emits a louder sound, an electronic vibration that echoes through the dark room. The dog, now lying next to them, begins to bark once more, but this time the sound is higher-pitched, almost desperate. Marcos kneels in front of the hatch. He hesitates for a moment. Whatever is down there is too big, and he knows it. There is no turning back. "This will destroy us," Anna says, her voice shaking. "If the hatch is here, it's because someone wants us to find it. And if they hid it for a reason, then we can't trust what we find." Marcos, without looking at her, lowers the device over the hatch opening. With a mechanical click, the hatch opens, revealing a narrow, dark corridor that descends even deeper into the ruins. The temperature around them seems to drop, as if they are entering a place where time no longer passes. "I don't know what we'll find down there," Marcos says, his voice grave. "But we can't stop now. The truth is here, and it's our responsibility to find it." Without hesitation, he enters first. Anna and Lucas, although reluctant, follow behind him, the dog now silent, watching them with unusual intensity. With each step they take, the surroundings seem more oppressive. The hallway narrows, and the air becomes heavier. At the end of the hallway, a sturdy, closed metal door appears before them. However, the most frightening thing is not the door itself, but what it bears. More symbols, now visible in greater numbers, covering the entire surface. Marcos approaches the door and, with the device in hand, tries to decipher what is happening. A dim light shines from the object, illuminating the symbols. He then realizes that, by matching the patterns on the door with the information on the device, he can decipher a code. But before he can act, the sound of something moving echoes around them. The door begins to open, not by their action, but by some hidden mechanism inside it. What lies beyond that door is not what they expected. The hallway reveals an underground room, filled with unfamiliar equipment and devices. In the center of the room, A metal table gleams in the light of Marcos's flashlight, and on top of it sits a large, strange object, covered by a tarp. The tension grows, and Marcos feels the blood pounding in his temples as he approaches the table. Anna and Lucas watch, paralyzed. When Marcos lifts the canvas, the revelation hits them like a blow of reality. On the table, there is not only advanced technology, there are bodies. Not human, but something more. Partially human beings, modified, their eyes open but empty. They are not alive, but they are not dead in the conventional sense either. The sense of horror is indescribable. Marcos falls to his knees before the scene, speechless. What lies before them is not an isolated experiment. It is a genetic modification facility, a scientific research center that goes beyond the bounds of morality. They were creating something here, Marcos murmurs, his voice breaking. But this is an aberration. Before they can react, the room begins to shake violently. The hatch they had opened slams shut, and a siren begins to wail, a loud, piercing sound that chills them. The base seems to be collapsing, and the feeling that something much larger is happening, something they can barely comprehend, engulfs them. "We have to leave now," Anna screams, grabbing Marcos's hand. But he doesn't move. The horror of what he's discovered is too much to process, but he knows they have to get away. They know what happened here, what this place really is, but escape now seems impossible. The room continues to shake, the lights flicker, and the only thing they can hear is the sound of their own hearts beating in despair. And then the truth comes out. Rescuing the dog was just the beginning. What they had found was not just an abandoned laboratory, but a secret experimental facility where lives were manipulated, twisted, and in many cases, destroyed. Their fate is now intertwined with this discovery, and they know that escape will only be the first step. "We can't leave this here," Marcos says, his voice hard, as reality engulfs them with overwhelming force. They are faced with something that could change the world forever. But before they can act, the ground beneath their feet collapses, and what seemed like an escape now turns into a race for survival. The room implodes around them. They need to get out. And quickly. The sky above is gray, clouded by dust kicked up by the rubble and the devastation itself. The rescue, which seemed like a simple mission, has now left them with a heavy burden to bear. Marcos, Anna, and Lucas breathe heavily, their bodies exhausted and their hearts still racing from the frantic race to escape the facility that nearly swallowed them. As they walk toward the open field, away from the chaos they just left behind, reality begins to set in. What happened there cannot be forgotten. What they saw, what they discovered, is an eternal weight, a truth that is now etched into their souls. They are unsure of what the future holds, but one thing is clear: their lives will never be the same. Marcos looks at the dog, who, despite the traumatic experience, walks by his side, faithfully, as if he knows that, somehow, he was also part of it all. He crouches down, pets the animal, and feels a warmth in his chest. His rescue, so simple at first, now seems to have been the first step toward something much bigger. To something that, although devastating, has a purpose that they have yet to understand. "Can we really save the world, Marcos?" Lucas asks, his voice low, still full of uncertainty. He looks to the horizon, as if he hopes to find an answer there. But nothing changes, only silence answers. They are the same, but now they see the world in a different way. Marcos takes a deep breath, the pain of what he has found still heavy, but an understanding is beginning to dawn within him. Saving a life can be more than saving a person or an animal. Sometimes it is saving something much bigger. A world. An idea. A future that we don't yet know if we can change. He looks at Anna, who is standing next to him, still processing everything that has happened. She doesn't respond immediately, but the expression on her face speaks louder than any words. They were heroes, but they were also victims of a larger, darker system. And now, with the truth in their hands, they can't go back. What we learned here, Marcos continues, staring into the distance, is not just saving lives, but understanding what they mean. What we are willing to do for them. Anna finally breaks the silence. And what do we do now? She asks, her voice full of resilience. Because we can't just forget. Marcos looks at his team. They may be exhausted, wounded, scarred by experience, but they are still together. And together, they can face whatever comes their way. They didn't choose this path, but it is now part of them. The weight of the truth is too great to ignore. They are the keepers of a secret that could change everything, and with that comes the responsibility to move forward. Now, Marcos says, we have to make sure that never happens again. Because in the end, saving one life is saving an entire world. The words echo in the air as the team walks into the future, no longer as victims, but as those who have the power to make the impossible real. They know that what they have found will not disappear. They are marked by the truth, and that truth will guide them, whether to save or to destroy, but above all, to fight for what has not yet been lost.